Welcome, everyone, to the channel where we delve into the intricate and often heartbreaking stories that leave a lasting impact on communities. Today, we unravel the chilling tale of Mandy Stavik, a bright young woman whose promising life was tragically cut short in the small, close-knit town of Acme, Washington. This is a story of lost innocence, a community shattered, and the relentless pursuit of justice that spanned nearly 3 decades. April 16th, 1971, marked the birth of Mandy Stavik. By 1989, she had blossomed into an exceptional 18-year-old. A college student home for the Thanksgiving holiday, Mandy was the epitome of vibrancy and achievement. Imagine a young woman who excelled not only academically, but also in the arts and athletics. She played multiple instruments in the band, possessed fluency in sign language and Japanese, and shone in sports like basketball, track, cheerleading, softball, and even horseback riding. Her high school basketball coach saw in her an unwavering desire to succeed in everything she undertook. Mandy harbored dreams of soaring through the skies as a commercial airline pilot. In the words of her mother, Mary, she was simply very everything. Acme, Washington. The backdrop to Mandy's life was a quintessential small American town. In 1989, its roughly 243 residents formed a tight-knit community where everyone knew their neighbors. It was a place where a sense of security and familiarity was the norm. The day after Thanksgiving in 1989, November 24th, became a day that would forever haunt Acme. Mandy embarked on her usual afternoon jog, a familiar 5-mile loop to the Nooksack River and back. Often, her mother would accompany her on a bike, but on this particular day, Mandy was accompanied only by her loyal German shepherd, Kyra. Her brother Lee saw her running past the Andersons' house, about halfway through her route, heading back home. 2 hours passed. Kyra returned home, alone and visibly distressed, her tail tucked between her legs, a clear sign that something was terribly wrong. Mandy didn't follow. Panic gripped her mother, Mandy Stavik. Immediately, she began calling everyone she knew: Mandy's boyfriend, Rick Zender, friends, family, and the sheriff's office. A desperate search effort was launched, with the entire town of Acme rallying to find their missing young woman. But as the hours stretched into a full day with no sign of Mandy, a grim realization settled over the community. This was no ordinary disappearance. 3 agonizing days later, on November 27th, 1989, the worst fears were confirmed. A volunteer firefighter made the heartbreaking discovery. Mandy's lifeless body lay in the shallow waters of the Nooksack River, nearly 6 miles from her home. Detective Ron Peterson, a former sergeant at the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office, was part of the search team. He remembers seeing her pink running shoes first, a stark contrast to the cold reality of the scene. Mandy was found face down in a small, shallow side channel of the river. The autopsy the following day delivered a devastating conclusion. Mandy died from asphyxia by drowning, but the details surrounding her death painted a horrifying picture. She was found naked, except for her socks and shoes, and authorities determined she had been sexually assaulted. A blow to the back of her head and scratches on her body suggested a violent struggle, an attempt to escape through thorny raspberry bushes. The fact that Mandy was a strong swimmer raised chilling questions. How could she have drowned in shallow water? The grim theory emerged. She was likely knocked unconscious and then placed in the river. The police investigation quickly hypothesized a brutal abduction. They believed her assailant, armed with a gun, forced her into a vehicle, perhaps even kicking her loyal dog Kira into a ditch before speeding away. The scratches on her arms and legs pointed to a possible sexual assault in a nearby field of blackberry, a desperate fight for freedom amidst the thorny undergrowth. The murder of Mandy Stavik ripped through the fabric of Acme, shattering its sense of peace and security. A terrifying question echoed through the quiet streets. Was the killer someone they knew? Someone living amongst them? Detective Ron Peterson was tasked with the unenviable job of leading the investigation. In 1989, DNA crime matching technology was in its infancy. However, Peterson had the foresight to receive training in handling DNA evidence, even from the FBI. His meticulous work led to the successful recovery of male DNA in the form of semen from Mandy's body. This crucial piece of evidence was carefully preserved, unknowingly waiting for a technological breakthrough decades in the future. Investigators pursued every conceivable lead. Mandy's boyfriend, Rick Zender, was questioned early on but fully cooperated and was quickly cleared. Police even consulted with the task force investigating the Green River serial killer in Seattle. But Mandy's case didn't fit that horrific pattern. They explored the possibility of a maintenance truck with 2 men seen in the area, and even created a composite sketch based on another man spotted nearby. Over 30 local men were asked to provide saliva swabs for DNA testing, their proximity to the crime scene raising initial suspicion. But one by one, the results came back negative. David, a local drifter who drew some attention, was also interviewed, and his DNA tested, but it too yielded no match. Despite the exhaustive efforts, the leads dried up, and no viable suspects emerged. The vibrant life of Mandy Stavik became a cold case, a haunting memory for the residents of Acme. Mandy was laid to rest in a cemetery near her family's home. A reward fund, initially established to find her killer, eventually reached $25,000. This money was later thoughtfully redirected to create a scholarship fund in Mandy's name at Mount Baker High School, supporting students passionate about music, a testament to Mandy's own artistic talents. The case remained dormant for 2 decades until 2009, when the 20-year-old cold case landed on the desk of Detective Kevin Bohe. Bohe, who had the personal connection of having attended the same high school as Mandy, became the 3rd detective to shoulder the weight of this unsolved tragedy. He approached the case with fresh eyes, conceiving the ambitious idea of a systematic DNA sweep of as many men as possible who had resided in the Acme area in 1989. He also meticulously reviewed the old case files and evidence, searching for any overlooked detail. In 2010, his pursuit of answers took him to Cambodia to question John Wisniewski, a local drug dealer from the time who had claimed to possess knowledge of the killer's identity. But Wisniewski proved uncooperative. Then, in June 2013, nearly a quarter of a century after Mandy's disappearance, a critical new lead emerged from the most unexpected of places. Heather Backstrom and Marilee Anderson, 2 mothers and former Mount Baker High School students, were enjoying a casual conversation at the Birch Bay Water Slides water park. As mothers often do, their talk drifted to local news and, inevitably, the unsolved Mandy Stavik case. In a moment that would alter the course of the investigation, Marilee stated that she knew who the murderer was. Astonishingly, Heather revealed that she, too, harbored a long-held suspicion about the very same person, Timothy Bass. Neither woman had ever gone to the police with their chilling suspicions. Marilee had endured a terrifying encounter with Tim Bass a couple of years after Mandy's murder. He had shown up at her house late at night, entered her bedroom, and attempted to force himself upon her, only retreating when she threatened to call the authorities. Heather recounted an uncomfortable experience with a 21-year-old Tim Bass when she was just 15, where he had been aggressively flirtatious and had rubbed a pen on her bare legs during a car ride. Based on these disturbing personal experiences, both women harbored a deep-seated belief that Timothy Bass was responsible for Mandy's murder. Marilee acted on her intuition and contacted a friend who worked for the Whatcom Sheriff's Office, sharing her and Heather's suspicions about Timothy Bass. This single conversation ignited a renewed investigation focused on him. In 1989, Timothy Bass had been a 22-year-old living just a few doors down from the Staviks, on the very same street where Mandy lived. Mandy's daily jogging route took her past his house. Yet, despite this proximity, Timothy Bass and his family had never been questioned during the initial investigation, perhaps a consequence of his family being well regarded within the small community. Shortly after Mandy's murder, Bass had moved away from Acme. In January 1990, about 6 weeks after the tragedy, he married Gina Malone and relocated to Everson, approximately 19 miles north of Acme. They went on to have 3 children. Timothy Bass established a seemingly normal life, working as a local delivery driver for Fran's Bakery outlet. When police finally met with Timothy Bass in 2013, his initial reaction raised immediate alarm bells. He claimed not to know or even remember Mandy Stavik. Detective Bohe recognized this as a significant red flag. In a town as small as Acme, and with the profound impact of Mandy's case, it was highly improbable that someone living on the same street, seeing her jog daily, would have no recollection of her. Adding to this suspicion, Timothy Bass vehemently refused to provide a DNA sample, stating his distrust of law enforcement and citing crime shows as his source of knowledge about how DNA could lead to imprisonment. This refusal propelled him to the top of the suspect list. As investigators delved deeper into Bass's background, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. They learned of a high school incident where he had threatened self-harm and fired a pistol into the air following a breakup, hinting at underlying instability. Further investigation revealed a subsequent and troubling disrespect and disregard for women. His own brother, Tom Bass, and his ex-wife, Gina Malone, would later testify about his controlling and emotionally abusive behavior towards women, including the demeaning act of referring to his female boss simply as woman. Gina also revealed a chilling detail. Bass would watch crime shows about Mandy's murder and audaciously comment on how the killer was stupid and would eventually be caught. Trapped in a difficult marriage, Gina had even sought a restraining order, but Bass's threats to lie to the courts and take their children kept her bound for years. With Timothy Bass firmly in their sights, the crucial next step was obtaining his DNA. However, lacking sufficient probable cause for a search warrant, the authorities had to resort to a covert approach. In 2013, they visited Bass's workplace, Franz Bakery Outlet, hoping to collect a discarded DNA sample from his delivery truck. They spoke with Kim Wagner, the manager of the outlet store. During this initial meeting, police were intentionally vague, stating they were investigating an employee and inquiring about route information or the possibility of collecting a discarded cigarette butt. Wagner, feeling this was beyond her authority, directed them to the company's Human Resources Department. The corporate office, adhering strictly to protocol, required a subpoena or search warrant, which the police did not possess. Several years passed. Then, during a casual conversation at a bar with her husband and friends, the topic of Kim Wagner's co-workers arose. When Timothy Bass's name was mentioned, a seemingly innocuous comment from one of her friends struck a powerful chord. They noted that Bass had lived on the same street as Mandy Stavik before the murder. For Wagner, it was a profound light-went-off moment. The pieces clicked into place. The police's earlier vague visit to her workplace suddenly made chilling sense. A gut feeling, a deep sense of unease, settled upon her. She believed Timothy Bass was responsible. The next time the police came to the bakery, again seeking information about Bass's delivery route, Kim Wagner made a pivotal decision. She took the detective into her office and directly asked if he was investigating the Mandy Stavik case. The detective, understandably surprised by her directness, confirmed her suspicion. In turn, Wagner provided him with Bass's route information, a small but significant act of cooperation. Although the police still lacked the legal authority of a subpoena or search warrant, Kim Wagner decided to take matters into her own hands. The police could not ask a civilian to collect evidence, but they could certainly accept evidence willingly brought to them. Wagner volunteered 100% to do it. Her motivation was deeply personal, rooted in her own experience as a mother. She felt a profound sense of obligation to help Mandy's mother find peace by identifying her daughter's killer. Wagner knew this would be no easy task. She had observed Bass carefully. He reportedly wore gloves during his shifts and meticulously took his trash home, leaving little opportunity for someone to find and obtain his DNA. For 3 long months, she maintained a discreet surveillance of his habits. Finally, an opportunity presented itself with the arrival of a new water cooler at the bakery. Wagner saw Bass drink from a disposable plastic cup and then discard it in the garbage. Her heart pounding, she waited until he was gone and then retrieved the cup, and later that same day, a discarded Coke can. With meticulous care, she avoided touching the rim of the cup, preserving any potential DNA. She placed the crucial items in her desk drawer. Investigators carefully packaged and sent the plastic cup and the Coke can, retrieved by Kim Wagner for forensic testing. The results that came back were nothing short of a breakthrough. The DNA sample obtained from the cup matched the male DNA that had been collected from Mandy Stavik's body nearly 30 years earlier. The statistical probability of this match being coincidental was staggering, 1 in 11 quadrillion. Armed with this irrefutable DNA match, the police finally had the evidence they needed to arrest Timothy Bass. On December 12, 2017, a staggering 28 years after Mandy's death, the 50-year-old Bass was apprehended at the Franz Bakery parking lot. He was taken to the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office and charged with the heinous crimes of kidnapping, murder, and aggravated sexual assault. Detective Bohe described Bass's demeanor during the initial interview as remarkably flat. However, when confronted with the undeniable DNA evidence and asked to explain why his DNA was found on Mandy, his composure shifted from denial to confusion, his primary concern being how the police had obtained his DNA. Later that same day, a poignant and bittersweet moment unfolded. It was Mary Stavik's 81st birthday. Sheriff Bill Elfo delivered the news of Bass's arrest. Mary Stavik's reaction was one of profound elation, a sense of a long-awaited birthday present. She confessed that she had never dared to dream this day would finally come. For Sheriff Elfo, being able to tell Mrs. Stavik that her daughter's case was solved stood as the highlight of his long and distinguished career. Despite the overwhelming DNA evidence, Timothy Bass maintained his innocence. During police interrogation and later at his trial, he concocted a shocking and unbelievable story. He claimed that he and Mandy Stavik had been engaged in a secret sexual relationship and that they had consensual sex on the very day she disappeared. He alleged that Mandy had shown up at his house that day. Authorities firmly believed this narrative was a desperate attempt by Bass to explain the undeniable presence of his DNA on Mandy's body. However, this claim was met with utter disbelief by both law enforcement and Mandy Stavik's family, and friends. Mandy's sister and friends unequivocally stated that there was no way Mandy would have ever been in a physical relationship with Timothy Bass, describing him as being way, way, way out of his league. The trial of Timothy Bass commenced in May 2019. Prosecutors meticulously presented their case, calling upon witnesses to paint a clear picture of the events and to dismantle Bass's fabricated narrative. They pointedly asked witnesses if they had ever seen Mandy Stavik and Timothy Bass together. The resounding answer from everyone was no. Even members of Bass's own family took the stand. His younger brother, Tom Bass, testified that Timothy had become visibly anxious after the police requested a DNA sample. In a desperate attempt to muddy the waters, Timothy confessed to Tom that he had slept with Mandy a couple of times before she went to college, and once when she returned for Thanksgiving break. He then chillingly asked Tom to lie to the police and claimed that he, Tom, had also slept with Mandy, seemingly trying to suggest she had multiple sexual partners. Tom Bass, to his credit, refused to participate in his brother's deception. Bass's ex-wife, Gina Malone, who had filed for divorce, also provided crucial testimony. She recanted the alibi she had initially given Bass shortly after the murder, admitting it was false and that she had no recollection of being at his house the day after Thanksgiving. Detective Bohe believed that Gina's initial false alibi was a misguided attempt to protect herself, and that she only felt safe enough to reveal the truth years later. Gina testified that Bass had pressured her to lie for him, instructing her to claim she was with him and saw Mandy jog past, even though she wasn't actually there. Disturbingly, she also revealed that Timothy had even asked his own mother to lie for him and to place the blame for the crime on his father, who had passed away a decade earlier. The prosecution's case hinged on the undeniable DNA evidence. Prosecuting attorney David McKeishen, a dedicated public servant who had worked on the case since its inception in 1989 and had come out of retirement to see justice served without pay, powerfully argued that the defendant's DNA was found on Mandy, that she was kidnapped, sexually assaulted, and ultimately killed. The original medical examiner, Dr. Gary Goldfogel, corroborated this, testifying that his findings regarding the presence of semen were entirely consistent with Mandy having been sexually assaulted and then placed in the river to drown while unconscious. The defense, led by Stephen Jackson, attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, arguing that Bass was innocent. They floated the possibility of consensual sexual contact between Bass and Mandy leading up to her death, despite the complete lack of any supporting evidence. They argued that the absence of significant signs of struggle negated the assault charge, and that the mere presence of semen did not automatically equate to sexual assault. The defense even called a forensic expert who testified that semen could potentially remain present for up to 2 days, suggesting it might not have been deposited immediately before Mandy's death. In a significant legal maneuver, they attempted to suppress the crucial DNA evidence, arguing that Kim Wagner had acted as an agent of the state when she collected the cup and had therefore violated Bass's Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure. However, Judge Raquel Montoya Lewis decisively ruled against this suppression, determining that Wagner had acted independently, driven by her own sense of moral obligation and not under the direct instruction or control of the police. This pivotal decision was later upheld on appeal. Kim Wagner herself took the stand for the prosecution, her testimony a powerful testament to her courage and determination. She poignantly explained her motivation, her desire to help Mandy's grieving family find some semblance of peace, and meticulously detailed the careful steps she took to obtain the DNA sample. Despite admitting to feeling terrified by the potential repercussions of her actions, she resolutely stated that she felt compelled to do the right thing. The trial spanned 3 intense weeks. After a day of deliberation, the jury reached their verdict. On May 24th, 2019, they found Timothy Forrest Bass guilty on all counts: murder, kidnapping, and aggravated sexual assault. Justice, after nearly 3 decades, had finally begun to be served. 6 weeks after the guilty verdict, the sentencing hearing took place. The emotional toll of the decades-long ordeal was evident. Mandy's mother, Mary, and her sister, Molly, were overcome with emotion and unable to speak. Molly's husband, Mike Brighton, bravely addressed the court on their behalf, emphasizing the enduring pain and the impossibility of true healing for their family. He implored the court to ensure that Timothy Bass never ever be allowed to walk the earth as a free man again. Timothy Bass also addressed the court, steadfastly maintaining his innocence and claiming that he had not received a fair trial. His mother, Sandra Bass, also spoke, denying that Timothy had ever asked her to blame his deceased father and asserting her belief in her son's innocence, suggesting he had been unfairly judged by public opinion even before the trial. The judge, recognizing the gravity of Bass's crimes and the decades he had evaded responsibility, sentenced him to the maximum term allowable under the charges. Nearly 27 years, 320 months in prison. A life sentence was not pursued because prosecutors, while confident in securing a conviction, were less certain they could prove premeditated murder beyond a reasonable doubt, and prioritized ensuring Bass would spend a significant amount of time behind bars. The judge somberly noted that Bass had lived freely for decades, shielded by a web of lies that had ensnared his own family and others. His ex-wife, Gina Malone, remained firm in her conviction of his guilt. Timothy Bass is currently incarcerated at Clallam Bay Correction Center. He will be eligible for parole in 24 years, with a tentative release date in 2045. While his legal team had mentioned plans for an appeal, no further significant developments have been reported. For Mandy Stavik, the knowledge that the man responsible for her daughter's brutal murder was finally brought to justice offered a measure of comfort and closure, although nothing could ever truly fill the void left by Mandy's absence. Mandy's sister, Molly, poignantly described the trial as reliving her sister's death, but expressed hope that the family could now slowly begin the arduous process of healing. Rick Zender, Mandy's former boyfriend, conveyed an overwhelming sense of relief upon hearing the guilty verdict. Detective Bohe, who dedicated years to this case, felt that the capture of Bass, the right person, validated the very purpose of their work. The Stavik family had already endured unimaginable tragedy. Mandy's older brother, Brent, was murdered in Alaska in 1975, a case that remains unsolved. Her stepbrother, Spencer, tragically died in a boating accident in 1988, just a year before Mandy's own life was stolen. Glenn Stavik, Mandy's father, faced the heartbreaking reality of losing 3 children before the age of 21. In a final act of remembrance and community spirit, the reward money that was not used for tips was thoughtfully donated to establish a scholarship fund in Mandy's name at Mount Baker High School. This fund supports students pursuing their passions in the music program, a beautiful tribute to Mandy's own artistic talents. It has been awarded 29 times since 1990, ensuring that Mandy's memory continues to inspire future generations. The story of Mandy Stavik is a stark reminder of the devastating impact of violent crime on individuals and communities. It is also a testament to the unwavering dedication of law enforcement, the courage of ordinary citizens like Kim Wagner, and the enduring strength of a family seeking justice for their lost loved one. Though the pain of Mandy's absence will forever remain, the conviction of Timothy Bass brought a long-awaited measure of accountability. Thank you for joining us as we explored this complex and ultimately resolved cold case. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you.